Hey, it's Nashwauk Steve here. In this project, I'm building a small chest to go behind our couch, just to hold some stuff and to kind of hide the back of the sectional we have that doesn't look very good from the backside. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I got to the spot I'm at right now on this project, and then I'll show you the finished product once I get it all finished, stained, varnished, all that stuff. So we'll start with how I constructed it, where I'm at, and then what I'm going to do from here. Here's the chest as it currently sits. It basically consists of, the four side pieces and then the bottom, and I'll show you what those are all made of. The front piece is just made of, here we have a ripped down 1x4, here's a full size 1x4, and then I added another full size 1x4 in the middle just to provide some support and better aesthetics for it. And then the end pieces are both identical. They just fit between the front and the back pieces like that. And they're again constructed just of 1x4 material. Everything is connected through pocket joinery here. So using a Craig jig to make these holes and connect everything so it all lines up nice and flush. You'll see that used throughout construction of this. And then the back, because the back side of this unit doesn't matter, I made this the ugly side of it, so the pocket holes are back here on this one, and then you can see how I fit in this piece of hardboard in here and stapled it in place. So the back is not the most attractive, but it will be flush against the couch, so it won't matter. And then I have the lid that's going to be going on here, and you'll see here it's made of ripped down 1x4 sides with a plywood, just a standard pine plywood top. I had to make the back kind of strange here. I want the hinge to be as high as possible, so when this unit tilts upright, it won't scrape against the back of the couch, so that's why that is built that way. And then just for support here, because kids are going to be sitting on it, it may have stuff set on top of it, I did add some structure to this underside at the quarter points and halfway point, just to provide it some rigidity. And because that top sheet of plywood was not that straight, it was kind of warped, so this straightened it out by adding the supports to it. Now my next step is going to be to put the hinges on here, get everything lined up. Once the hinges are on and this lid sits appropriately how I want it, we'll go ahead and give it sanding and then some staining. You see these gaps here everywhere. This is for the style of this type of chest. So what's going to happen is these boards that I already pre-finished are going to sit in here like this all the way along the inside of this. It will line this chest, and that will provide the look that we're going for on the inside of this. It should be tighter joints than that, but that'll be the final product. So now we'll go ahead and get this lid fitted up, and we'll see how it looks then. So as I was installing these nice flat hinges, I guess they're meant for bifold doors, but they will work for my application. Had a little problem with these screws that are apparently 1 inch long, came with it, and I'm putting them on a piece of plywood that is 3/4 inches long, so you see my problem there. I decided to go through my trusty container of all my screws that are, short, 1 inch or less, and I couldn't find any that had this nice flat head on it that would sit flush inside that hinge. So I came up with my own solution using my grinder. It only takes a few seconds. Turn the grinder on, put the screw inside using those pliers, and in about 5 seconds you end up with the right size screw you need. Being that I'm pre-drilling my holes, I don't need that tip in there to start my screw, so now my screw is short enough and I can go ahead and install these hinges. So just a little unauthorized modification to the hardware there, and we're ready to go. Okay, I just got the hinges in place and functioning. It took quite a bit of monkeying around to get them all to align so the top could close without it binding at all, but as you see now, it'll easily close. Not totally happy with that closure yet, but it's at least functioning smoothly. And then I can go ahead now and take these hinges back off and get to finishing this piece, and then we'll move on from there. I'm using fairly dark stain red mahogany, and actually for this stuff I wanted it to be very odd grained, so it kind of had a deep texture to it, so I actually mixed some black paint in there with it when I went about staining it. I'm going to use that same stain mixture to do the outside of this thing, and so we'll get started on that after a quick sand, and we'll see how it looks. Alright, here is the chest. I just got done with the last bit of staining on it. Like I said, I was using a dark stain mixed with a little bit of black paint to give it a pretty varied dark tone. It's still wet. I haven't wiped off this last bit of it here. I'm in a shop that's pretty cold, so I let it sit for quite a while and absorb before I wipe it off. This is the lid here, and the main unit here. Here's the back of it. That's just hardboard on the top there that's kind of blotchy. That'll all wipe off and look smooth. And then while I have it on the side, I didn't show you how I did the bottom. So I actually have this piece of plywood. It's inset into all the four pieces, the side pieces around it, just to give it extra support. I didn't have to do that. I suppose I could have just, put a block in here and supported it just with the bottom itself and attached that firmly to the sides. But I wanted to do a dado with my router and figured I'd keep doing it so I can remember how to do it in the future. So then I just have the supports at quarter points along the way at half. And then one thing I did do on this, which I think turned out cool, the wood I was using was not really great quality, especially for the top. It was a piece of BC plywood, and so it already had a kind of a big gouge in it. So I thought rather than just have one glaring imperfection, I'd kind of make more distressed elements to it on my own, so it kind of looked like it was intentionally that type of wood. So what I did here, you can see these marks are an Allen wrench that I pounded into the wood, and the stain kind of absorbs nicely in there. And then I have a series of hole marks like that I took with a center punch at an angle and pounded it into there a few times to give it kind of that almost like an insect rotted look. Find some more of those over here where I use the center punch again to make those holes, and I was using a chisel as well. There's more of the Allen wrench looks, more of the center punch looks there. So overall it gives it kind of a nice distressed look. So that's kind of what I'm going for. Next is to let this dry, or wipe it off, let it all dry. Like I said, it's a cold shop, so I'm going to let it dry for quite a while before I go ahead and start putting on the polyurethane. That'll be next. Alright, with everything stained and wiped off, we're going to go ahead and move on to varnishing or polyurethaning this chest we were working on. You see here, first step is going to be to take this tack cloth. I did this before I did staining, but again, we're going to do it after the staining. This picks up all the little fine dust, so there's not any imperfections when we put on the polyurethane. We've got a nice, actually using a new 2-inch brush here with the tapered edge, so it's easy to get into the corners. And then I'm using some Varathane Ultimate Polyurethane Satin. That's what I'll be putting on this for a final coat. I think I'm going to do 3 coats on the top here, probably 2 on the sides and front, and then on the inside there we're just going to kind of see how it goes. If it ends up needing more than 1 coat in there to feel smooth, we may do that. So it's going to be 1 or 2 coats inside there. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on this, and then we'll show you what it looks like after we've gotten some of the varnishing done. Remember, with varnishing, it's always good to do multiple thin coats rather than smaller number of thick coats. Keep that in mind as you go through and work on your own project. All right, there's the first coat of polyurethane on the top. You saw it as it kind of was applied there, and then I went ahead and did the edges. Got it all looking nice and even everywhere, and now we'll let that dry for probably a day. Again, it's cold in the shop, so I'm going to give it a good day to dry, and when it's nice and hard to the fingernail, then I will give it a light sand with like a 400 grit paper and do this again a couple times on this. We'll continue on and do the same to this piece and to the slats that are going to go in those openings there too, and we'll see how that looks. Alright, so here's the chest with 2 coats of varnish on everything, inside and out on the top. I'm going to do another coat on the top, and then I still have to do the underside of that. But I figured at this point I can go ahead and assemble these slats. They're not in place right now, they're just sitting there like that. But I will go ahead and glue and nail those in. I'm using 1¼ inch nails. I've got about 1.5 inches here to work with, so 1¼ inch nails should give me some room to play with there. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these, nail these in so this part looks more finished, and that's kind of going to be the final look of it anyway. The staining turned out just how I'd hoped, with a very irregular pattern on there for everything. So I'll go ahead and get these attached, and then I'll finish up the staining, and my next showing of it here will probably be with the top attached to it. So as you can see here, we got the hinges in place and the lid is attached and functional now. Everything has got a coat of varnish on it except for the underside of this lid, which is what I'm doing right now. But as you can see, it operates nicely. It closes pretty nicely, so I'm happy with that. We're going to put a final coat on here too on the top, and that should be it for the varnishing, and then the hardware can go on. So I'll keep on putting the varnish on the inside here, and we'll go from there. As you can see here, the hardware is now on. Just gave it 2 simple handles, kind of a turned metal design there. Easy to put those on, just measure up to the quarter points on this. I did 1/4 here and then 1/4 from the other side. And it's a 3-inch spacing, so measured out 1.5 inches each way from the quarter point. And then drilled holes in for these and put the screws in from the back. It was pretty simple to do. The harder part of the hardware was this little guy in here. Because my lid is kind of a strange design where, you know, the hinge is up here, not down flush with the rest of the surface, I had to measure everything from the front edge here and from the inside edge of the lid up here as well to get to the point where it would actually close nicely. So I kind of held it in position where I wanted it, held this where I liked it, and then just kind of measure from the front there and measure from the top there to get the spot where it goes. So one of these was fine to hold the whole lid up. It's no problem. As far as support goes, that worked out pretty well. And I didn't go with the directions on this because that would have been for a 90-degree hold open, and I wanted it to be less than that just so it doesn't hit the couch. As you can see there, I wanted it to be less than a 90-degree hold open there. So that is it for this project. I'm calling that a completed chest. So I hope this helps you out if you're making something similar. You can see it's not too hard of a project, just takes a lot of steps to get there, but every step along the way is pretty simple. Thanks for watching.